Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jessejames, and today we're going to be taking a look at. Man, you guys are very lucky today. Taking a look at this Steinitz versus Von something. This is a great game. Definitely one of Steinitz Immortal games. Let's go and check this game out. This is definitely an instructive chess miniature. Here we go. We're going to go ahead and start off with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. Starting from an Italian position. Bishop c5, c3, the Joko piano now. And, okay, here we go. Knight f6 attacks the pawn. Main line right here, pawn to d4. E takes d4, c takes d4, bishop b4 check. Here there's many different moves you can play here to get a game here for white. Steinitz chooses to go ahead and play knight to c3. Pawn to d5, like many strong players will play. Because after e takes d5, knight takes d5, it looks like white's going to be getting an okay game here just because, well, we have an isolated pawn here. It looks like black's actually achieved equality. Unfortunately, white has a very good position here because, remember, whenever you do have the isolated pawn, that does mean you have good attacking chances, as we will see in this game. Castles, of course. Bishop b6, the more trades, the better. Remember, if black is able to get to endgame here, he will have a better game. Some of you guys might be asking, hey, isn't there a free pawn over here? No, there is not. Here, let's take a look at different ways that you can lose this game by trying to grab the free pawn. Here, let's take a look at, let's go with bishop takes c3. Pawn takes on c3, and here the pawn is taboo, as if knight takes c3, simple chess, undefended knight, king very vulnerable. What do you play here? That's right, just simple chess. Queen e1 check, and we can go ahead and grab this knight next move. Let's see, and what happens if we try to take the other way with knight takes on c3? Pawn takes c3, bishop takes c3, and here we have the amazing queen to b3, which I haven't gone over yet, but I will be adding this to our YouTube videos. Here, bishop takes a1 has been played already, and white's just winning in these games. I think this is like over 300, 400 years of theory, but this is well-known theory for those that like to study chess like myself. Anyways, back to the main game. Bishop e6 gets played. Everybody who plays this line knows about these. You know, rook sacrifices are very easy. Bishop g5 developing with a threat. Bishop e7, and now the very cool maneuver here. Bishop takes on d5. Typically, we don't like to give away our bishops, but here we have a certain idea. Bishop takes, knight takes, queen takes, bishop takes, knight takes. And here you might be asking, wait a second, Jesse, you just said going into an endgame would be bad for you. And what did we do right now? We just trade all our pieces. Here we did do that, but here we have a natural advantage, which is the king still at the center. So what do you do when your opponent's king's in the center? Attack him. So let's keep it going. What do we play here? White to move. Here we play the beautiful rook to e1, pinning this knight right here. And this is actually going to be a very difficult pin for black to get out of. Obviously, we can't castle, or else we'll just be losing the knight. So black plays a very simple move. Pawn to f6. Of course, if you're thinking about playing something like queen to d7, you have to be very careful. There's many good moves here. You have queen e2, which is just going to stop him from castling right away. You also have knight e5, a nice tempo move. The queen must move again. And then maybe we'll go something like queen f3, winning a pawn. Again, there's a lot of different ways to play this position, but here, queen d7 definitely is not going to be giving him a good game. As long as the king's in the center, it's going to be bad. F6 move is actually pretty interesting, though. What's this move do? Very simple. Black just wants to play the king f7, play the rook over, and say, you know what, let's make some more trades. We get to the end game, I win. Black has one idea. Trade, 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 right? Get your king to safety, and then let's trade. Alright, well, simple chess. Let's keep piling on. Here we're going to develop that queen. Queen goes to e2, of course. Queen goes back to d7. Maybe now black could have played f6 and the game would have transposed. Either way. Alright, what's the next piece we want to move? The rook, of course. And where's the best place for this rook? Well, you know, we can go to c1 or we can go to d1 here. I always prefer to keep my rooks as active as possible, so I like the way it got played in the game. Rook to c1. Alright, what happens now? Black goes ahead and takes the time to play pawn to c6. And this is where it gets him into plenty of trouble here. Alright, here we go. Let's set this position up in our head. Let's start calculating some ideas. White to move. Here we have a very beautiful move that gets played here. I'm so excited about this. I'm really too giddy. I've seen this game too many times, and yet I'm still very excited about this. Alright, white to move. What do we play here? Now, if you're looking at this position, it's kind of hard to play because, well, it looks like all the entry points are taken. And this is pretty much true. f6 and c6 are definitely guarding all these squares for your pieces. And well, the rook and queen are pretty much at their maximum. This rook's at its maximum. This knight, not too really. As you see, after this f6 move, it's got taken away. Let's look for any weak squares. Any weak squares in this position? Well, hopefully you see e6 and d6 are kind of weak over here. Maybe we'll go queen e6. Although this might be a way to play, I definitely don't recommend it. As well, we'll just trade. King f7, you'll double up rooks. And once black plays something like rook e8, the knight will get moved. And then, of course, the trades will start happening. So you've got to be definitely a bit more active in this position. And the idea here is, well, the c6 square is weak, but who would look best on the square? Hopefully you see it. It's the knight. So how do you get a knight to e6? Here a very nice clearance sacrifice gets played. Did you figure it out? Here we have the amazing pawn to d5. And it's always really cool whenever you kind of play these moves, whenever there's like 1, 2, 3 different ways to capture, and all the ways are going to be bad. Obviously, the knight actually can't capture it all because of the pin. But what about queen takes d5? Well, I guess if you would want to get checkmated, this is the way to play. And of course, the last one is c takes d5, which actually does get played in the game. But the idea here was to put your knight in the best square. So what do we play here? Yep, simple chess, knight to d4. Our knight is going to get to this beautiful e6 square and definitely be the best piece on the board. Again, black's king is just trapped in the center here, so black went ahead and played king f7. He's thinking he's only one move off, and to some degree, it's true. If the rook gets to e8 and I can play my knight to g6, I'm very happy here. Again, I'm just up an extra pawn. Unfortunately, white has many moves here to start making their own tempos. All right, what do we play next? Well, this knight wanted to get to e6, so let's put it there. And then black plays a very sensible move here. We want to put the king to g8, and we don't want to block in our rook, so let's develop this rook. Let's develop with the threat. Here, rook h to c8, and now the game is pretty much over. With this beautiful combination, definitely an immortal game here by Steinitz. White to move. Let's keep making threats. What do you play here? Here's a hint. The queen is undefended. All right, so queen g4 gets played. Pretty simple move to see. Here, what's the threat? Well, very simple. We want to move the knight to check, and then we can take this queen. Also, we have the simple idea of queen takes on g7. And black needs to be very careful. Again, if rook takes c1, you're just getting checkmated now. Queen takes g7, king e8, queen f8 mate. Okay, so that doesn't work. So black needs to come up with something here. Black needs to defend on g7. If you play the rook back over to g8, well, then you allow this rook to get into the game c7 with the free tempo. So black plays the simple-looking g6. All right, here we go. Start the combination. Knight g5 check, force move here. Remember, you can't take it unless you want to lose your queen. That's up to you, but I like to think you don't want to do that. The king goes to e8. And now, please push pause if you can. Try to work out this position. I guarantee you, just trying to look through these variations will give you very, very satisfactory feeling. All right, for those of you who just want to see it, look at this beautiful combination that gets played. Rook takes on e7 check. Oh my gosh. Remember, we should always be looking for forced moves first anyways. Checks, captures, and threats. So hopefully you were analyzing this move to begin with. And even the more surprising move here that gets played, king to f8. What? We need to take a look at these variations. What is going on in this position? Here, after rook takes e7 check, we have to take a look. Well, can we just capture back? You can capture back if you want to lose. King takes on e7, rook e1 check, of course. And here, all variations are losing. If king d6, knight e6 check, you're going to be losing your queen now. As well, there's really no good move to go to. Knight c5 check, and the queen's lost. And we're going to have a checkmate here too. So what does that leave? I guess we have to play king d6. Remember, we need to keep the king next to the queen or else we're just going to be losing it. So king d6 is the only logical move that we could play next. And here we have the stunning queen b4 check, rook c5, and well, there's many moves you can now play to win here. Rook e6 check is one of them. So, we'll just go ahead and keep it with this one. This is probably one of the easier wins. Knight takes. And then here, of course, you realize you can't take the knight without losing the rook. But if you try to defend it, you're going to lose it anyway. So, king takes on e6, queen takes. And here, obviously, Steinitz is just winning. Okay, so In the game, wait a second, we do need to look at one more variation. Can we take with the queen? Hopefully you see this would just be another bad move. Yep, when the queen took, now we could take this rook in check. Notice it's very important to check, because then queen e1 is going to be checkmate. And then, of course, if they take, we take queen d8, and even go queen e6 check here, just to be mean. Queen e7 here, yeah, you can trade if you want to, but there's too many winning moves here to actually just say that one is winning. All right, well, back to the main game. After rook takes on e7 check, the king really has only one good move to play. King to f8. And here you have to be careful. You can't just go grabbing the queen. If you try to grab the queen, let's just say queen takes. Oh, rook takes c1, check and mate. Pobrecito. All right, so what do we do now? Here we have to keep looking for the forced moves, checks, captures, and threats. This is another good stopping point to start calculating. See if you can keep making progress here. The next idea is so beautiful. Again, there's a great amount of satisfaction just looking at this game and understanding it. Not just appreciating it, but understanding it. What do we play now? All right, here we go. The next beautiful continuation, rook f7 check. Oh my gosh, just like in the last one, the rook is going to be taboo. Again, we can't take here or else rook takes on c8 check. And again, we're just going to be winning material. So here, notice the king has to go to g8. Of course, going to e8 this time would just be ridiculous, as the queen can just take for mate. All right, so now this king's on his own journey. King, again, has to keep running. King goes to g8. All right, let's keep it up. What do we play next? Hopefully you see it. Rook to g7 check. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Why can't we take it this time? Again, the queen cannot take, or else we take the rook over here on c8. All right, and if the king takes, well, remember earlier we want to take the queen, but we couldn't because the back rank checkmates. Whenever the king takes, here's that perfect tempo. Queen takes d7, and again, we're going to be mating fast. Oh my gosh. All right, so the king must move. Let's see, we can either go to f8 or h8. Well, what happens if f8? Again, just another beautiful win. Here, it's a little bit more forceful. Knight takes on h7 check, and here the king is pretty much forced to take the rook again. And again, we will take on d7 check so that we're going to get this tempo, and then we'll win the rook at the end if we want to, if we don't see any checkmates. Of course, if the king goes to e8, we get to take in check and mate. Oh my gosh, every variation is always the same. This poor black king just running around. King h8, no surprise here. Rook takes on h7 check. All right, the king goes to g8. Rook g7 check. And here the idea is very simple. We need to bring the queen in, and we can't come in this way because this is being guarded. So we actually need to come down the h file, okay? We have to come down the h file. But remember, every tempo, checkmate's being threatened here, queen's hanging over here, this rook's hanging over here, this knight's hanging over here. Everything is hanging here. Everything must go. At least that's what black is hoping for. So king h8. Again, if you try to play this king f8 idea we saw last time, knight h7 check wins because then we get to take the queen in check. So the king has to go to h8, and now hopefully you see the idea. Now that the king's on the h file, we can play. Here we go. Queen h4 check. King takes on g7. And here, this is definitely one of those times where you can announce mate. Back in the old days when you're playing a chess game, even if it's in a crowded hall, you could just stand up and be like, checkmate in 10. You just better make sure that you're right. I like to think that Steinitz stands up here and says, checkmate in 8 in a very harsh voice against his opponent. And everyone crowds, if they weren't crowding already. Queen h7 check, king to f8, queen h8 check, king e7, g7 check, king e8. Can you figure this one out? Feel free to press pause here. It's forced checkmate in 5 moves. All right, hopefully you figured it out. Queen g8 check, king e7, queen f7 check, king to d8, queen f8 check. Here you have to block, and now the checkmate in 2 here. Queen e8, knight f7 check, king d7, queen d6 checkmate. Wow, this is definitely, like I said, I was just giddy just going over this game. I'm very happy I get to go over this one. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Instructive Chess Miniature.